Well, hello and welcome back to another edition of Comic Talk. This is Alex coming to you live from Miami, Florida. And spring is about to be sprung down here. It's getting, or actually, it's about to turn into summer down here. We really have a very odd spring. It's really more like the beginning of summer due to the temperatures that we get. Every now and then it'll dip. Like right now, it's nice, but nice to us is 70, 75 degrees at night. And that is pretty much how it's going to stay now till about, I would say maybe June. Then it gets a little warmer, but we never hit those record numbers that you see in the Midwest of 110, 114, things of that nature. That never happens here because in Miami we get the crosswinds right off the ocean. So it's breezy most of the times, and even when it's hot, it's a beach city, so most people enjoy it. Anyway, getting back to comics, while we're here, um, we're getting close to the release of Morbius, so I'll be talking about that, and that includes a little sale that I've got. But one of the other things I want to talk about is something I saw recently, which was shocking to me. A sale for an object that I wouldn't pay 2 cents for. And I think this is where the issue with speculation is coming in on, and how we actually do what we're about to do if this trend that you'll see continues. Anyway, watch the show. I'll be right back.
Chewing on a piece of grass, walking down the road. Tell me how long you gonna.
So everyone complains about speculation, right? I mean, we spend all of our days and hours in collecting comics, and we see what's happened with speculation. We saw what happened in the 90s. Before then, there really wasn't much speculation going on. There was no medium. The medium of the 90s was actually created through magazines. And what I mean by the the speculation of the 90s was driven via magazines, and we've talked about them before. There were the Wizard magazines, and the Wizard magazines became intrinsic to um, collectors everywhere. They started looking at the pricing, and then those fell into other people's hands, and then those people saw this death of Superman on television, and all of those things led to an increasing hysteria around collecting comics. Okay, so before we go on, I want to do one thing. I want to go by. I want to show you guys some of the issues that you may be interested in if you are going into the speculation of Morbius. Because I am certainly a big Morbius fan, but I am going to be keeping 101, 102, and Team Up 3. The rest of them, I'm letting them go, only because I'm trying to skinny down my collection. But before I do that, let me show you what a run of Morbius can look like. I mean, or some of the issues. For example, there's an entire series of Morbius called Morbius the Living Vampire. This is issue number 2. And this is actually from the early 90s. Let me take a quick peek at this to make sure. Yeah, just as I thought, 1992. It was a very different Morbius. He was more superhero-ish. Back when Morbius came out in Amazing Spider-Man, he was kind of a tragic figure, but over time his popularity has grown, and he's actually become much more of like an anti-hero, but also kind of a hero, depending on the storyline and what's going on in it. And hopefully this movie's gonna do some good stuff by him. Again, Spider-Man always joining Morbius. This is the Living Vampire series, and that title has remained. There'll be another one you're going to see in a minute. This is number 3. Here's number 6. Number 7. I don't have them all. Actually, I think some of them are in some boxes that I haven't found yet or been able to go through. This is number 8. These are all on sale on eBay, by the way. And this set is actually on sale as a set. Number 9. Number 10. And the all black issue, number 12. It's all black. It's actually in really good shape too. So those are Morbius the Living Vampire from 1990, early 90, 92, 93. Then you have, earlier than that, there was a series called Adventure into Fear. And this is the first appearance of Morbius on it, number 20. This was the first time Morbius, the living vampire, as you see up there. And the reason they call him a living vampire is because Morbius has never died. Morbius didn't die and become a vampire. Morbius became a vampire through an injection, which you'll see in the movie. I've seen the clips enough to know that. So because of it, Morbius never went through that process of being bitten, dying, and coming back. Kind of the resurrection process. He just went straight into being a vampire because he changed his DNA. And by the way, these Adventures into Fear, tough to find in high grade. Very tough. They were in dollar boxes for years. Here's number 23. See, here he still has the traditional costume that was his original costume, where in the later 90s he's more in leather, and it's kind of like an ultimate type costume. If you know the difference between the ultimate costumes and the standard superhero costumes, this type of costume is much more sleek. The ultimate costumes always have gear and ropes and belts and things of that nature. I mean, they're just more industrial, steampunkish. So this is number 27. And I think, this one has Man-Wolf in it. This is number 30. Obviously, all of these were newsstands, because I'm gonna check the date on them just to be sure. I think these are in the 70s. Let's see here, 1975. So this is 1975. His first appearance, I believe, was around 1971, 1970. So this was the first series, and this was the first series that gave him his own title. Even though he was, it's kind of like Tales of Suspense, or one of those series that's a series for one specific character inside another series. So those are the ones for Adventure into Fear, and again, they're all on eBay in Comic Book 1962. And then we go into the most modern version. This is Morbius the Living Vampire. This came out last year. And that's this one is a Ryan Brown cover. This is a variant cover. This is a Greg Land variant cover. I love Greg Land. So here's another Morbius Living Vampire. Fiera. Or Furia. Number 3. Variant cover. Not sure who did this one. Number 5 is the last one that I have. And this is a regular trade issue. This is the standard issue. So now, let's go take a look at the main topic, which was speculation and how crazy it's getting. What you're about to see really shocked me. I mean, I understand collecting has changed, but what I saw was weird. Watch. Okay, so we first started with covers, and here we've got one. Very famous cover of Batman #1. You know, or I wouldn't say cover, I would say coverless, right? This is a coverless issue. This is an issue that seems to be complete. It got trimmed, as you can see in the CGC numbering of point .1. Now, this is about as low as I've ever seen anything been given. There are other grades that I'm going to look at right now, and I just wanted to bring this up because I think we're getting to the point of absurdity. And you're going to see that on the third image I will show. This is just a coverless issue. I get it. You can buy this, you can buy a cover, you can marry them, and you can end up with a pretty decent book. So I understand coverless issues have their value. Okay, so now here, this is a little different. This isn't just the comic book without a cover. This is actually now an actual page out of a comic book. So the designation they give it is PG, which I would assume stands for page. It's one specific page. I don't understand why anyone would actually want to buy it, but at least, I mean, if it had, and this page specifically doesn't even have Superman on it, I would be looking more at a page that maybe had the character. I think this has Mandrake. If I'm correct, that might be Mandrake. It may have been a multi-issue on Action 1, I'm not sure, where they had multiple stories and Superman was just one story. Happened to be the story on the cover, but just one of them. As a matter of fact, they didn't even think Superman would become as popular as it did. It took about, I think, another 2 issues before they actually decided that Action was going to feature Superman consistently. And then it took a good number of issues, maybe 20, 25 issues before I think Superman #1 launched. I'm not exactly sure how many, but it was a bit. I mean, like I said, it was kind of surprising to them, and when the numbers came in of what was sold is when they realized it. But again, here's just a single page. So now, are there people out there destroying Action #1s to sell them piecemeal? And what is the concept of selling this piecemeal? I'll talk about that later because I think this ties back to something we discussed before. But before we do all that, now the most ridiculous of all. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would have never believed it. What you're looking at in front of you is the cutout of the actual #1 section in the cover and put into a CGC. This is the ultimate absurdity of speculation. And I think this has something to do with what I'm going to talk about next. Um, but before that, let's just soak this in. When I first saw this, I was shocked. Um, by the way, the person who did this is looking for about $7,000 for this. That's what they listed it as. 7,000 some odd $100 for this cutout of the #1 of Action 1. Now, I don't know about you, but when I can go and score myself an actual comic book that has, I don't even know what to say. I mean, that actually has some value to it, some intrinsic value. Why would I spend 7 grand on a piece of a cover that doesn't say anything, but literally has only one image of a single corner of a cover? I don't even know how they verified it, to be quite honest with you. The verification on this seems extremely odd, because I don't know how they could have done it. But in any way, I guess if they look at the back and they look at the front, they might be able to tell. But talk about the ability to make money off something. I don't understand it, guys. I hope you do. But now let's talk about what I think is happening, because it's called NFTs. Okay, so what can I say, guys? You're talking about a number one. That's literally the number one out of the comic. You're talking about individual pages. You're talking about coverless. Coverless, I get. That's been standard. See, back in the day when comic books were returned, many of them had the covers ripped off. So if a newsstand got 10 comics of something and only 5 sold, they had the right to return 5. But to ensure that nobody got them and then sold them afterwards, the newsstands were asked to rip off the covers or rip off a part of the covers. So sometimes you'll see a comic book with a top section missing. That's because the newsstand owner took that off, or operator. Other times you'll see the entire cover gone. And again, it was done because they were returned items, not meant for resale again. Then they fell into someone's hands, and that's how they got into the market. And sometimes, believe it or not, the distributors didn't want the comics back. So they would allow the retailers to rip half of the page off and still sell them at a discounted rate if they wanted to keep them. That way they didn't have to carry them back. They would just count them, say, okay, fine, you return these, we got them. You don't have to pay for them, but do whatever you want with them. And the store owners and newsstand owners would put them in a pile and sell them at a discount. So some of these made it into the market that way. But the thing that really shocked me was the number one. There's a concept called NFTs, which is non-fungible tokens. And non-fungible tokens can be utilized to fragment a item of value. So let's say that you have a Picasso piece of art and you want to sell parts of it, because you know that by selling parts of it, you can get more money than selling the whole thing. And you also don't want to get rid of it. So you can still retain ownership. And what happens is you sell, like let's say you take the picture of Picasso and you divide it into 1,000 parts, right? You just divide it into 1,000 parts. So now you have 1,000 little pieces that make up one picture. Each one of those little pieces becomes a non-fungible token, or represented by a non-fungible token. You can sell those. And the way it works is almost like a stock. You're owning stock in a picture. You're owning stock in a comic book. There's one company, and I forgot its name now, that sells comic books in such a way. You can actually buy a non-fungible token that's representative of action number one. So the next time action number one gets sold in the marketplace, guess what? Your non-fungible token gets paid for, because the person who sold it has to reimburse you the amount that the artwork is worth. Until it's resold again, those non-fungible tokens can be, or actually at any time, those non-fungible tokens can be resold. So you can literally be selling your pieces of a Picasso painting. So how do you, in that case, how do you reconcile what the actual cost is, or what the value is for a non-fungible token? It's market driven. You literally put it out there and you say you want X amount for it. And if people are willing to pay you X amount, it drives the price of every other non-fungible token in that picture up. And it's the same thing if somebody comes and offers $15 million for an artwork that was worth $10 million. When you bought your non-fungible token, it was based on the value of the $10 million. When it's sold at $50 million, your non-fungible token has now earned another $5 million, or a part of another $5 million. So it basically goes up 50% from whatever you had before. So that's what I think is happening, except that they're taking it to the physical term. They're actually cutting up the books and they're selling these items. Personally, I don't see how it's the same. You cannot take pieces of a book and put them back together again. Owning a number one from an Action Comics, some people may think that's cool. I don't think it means much, especially for $7,000, which was the asking price. Even for $100, I wouldn't spend it. It just doesn't make any sense. It's being driven only by greed. It's being driven by people who want to buy it because they think they can resell it, by people who think that they can make money on it. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. I sell on eBay all the time. I have no problem making money off my comics. I have no problem other people making money off the comics. I just think that some things are foolish. And I think that this method of destroying books is foolish. Now, I'm sure that whoever did this had a very low grade Action 1, or maybe only had the first page, or maybe only had a section, and took that section and cut it and made the number one to see if he could get through it on CGC and test the waters. I don't think it's going to get sold. I don't think anybody in their right mind would buy it. But then again, I've seen some other crazy stuff. Now, for what I sold, so we can wrap this up. This is the latest sale I had. Yep, it's a Morbius. He's coming out. He's going to be on in the movie theater, I think, April 1st, if I'm not mistaken. So it's right around the corner. It's a beautiful book. Absolutely beautiful book. I think it's one of the earliest Mobius. Let's see. Oh, 1976. So it actually postdates the Adventure Interfere. Sorry about that, guys. Adventure Interfere came out the year before. So I thought it was an earlier. I thought this came out right after Team Up. But no, 1976. So again, look at the condition. Absolutely beautiful book. I think it needs a press for sure. I mean, it's not terrible, but I think with a press, you'll be able to get rid of some of the color breaking creases you see on the edge here. You'll be able to get rid of those, and you might be able to bring this up to what could be like a 9.0, possibly. Guys, I have to admit, my grading with CGC has been so crazy. I've hit some right on the head, and I've missed some, like, crazily missed them. Like, I have the famous Walking Dead that if you've ever seen of mine, it's unbelievable that got an 8.5. I'll show you what I mean. That Walking Dead has nothing at all on it. Nothing at all. I got the grader's notes. It said there was some, I don't know, cover rub. I don't even see where it is. I'm gonna probably break this out and resubmit it just to see what I get, because I know this is wrong. 8.5, it's ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with this book. Absolutely nothing. Well, guys, thank you again. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe. I hope you like this content. Again, watch Morbius. I think it's going to be great. I honestly like Jared Leto. I've seen some movies of his that even in movies that are not great movies, his role is usually the most interesting. And if he can pull off a great movie with an interesting role for Morbius, he's going to be in the MCU for a very long time. Trust me. With Dracula coming, with Blade coming, with Man-Thing coming, all of these are coming. And not far behind could be Legion of Monsters. If you've never seen Legion of Monsters, look it up. Legion of Monsters is where they're all combined. Ghost Rider with them too. And that's why the Midnight Suns have heated up. Because the Midnight Suns are that horror line of Marvel. Anyway, guys, thank you again. And look forward to seeing you on our next Comic Talk, which should be happening soon. Bye.
Mary, have you seen better days? And will you find different ways? And does he really mean that much to your heart? Carry all of the weight you can. Find another man and lead him directly there to the source. You've got to chart his course, 'cause it is only in your heart, this thing that makes you want to start.